Come and listen to a story about a man named Jed, a poor mountaineer who barely kept his family fed. Then one day, while he was out shooting at some food, up through the ground came a bubbling crude.
Oil, that is.
Black gold.
Texas tea.
Well, the first thing you know, Jed became a millionaire. The kinfolk came together and told him that he needed to move away from there. They said California was the place he ought to be. So they loaded up the old truck and they moved to Beverly Hills, that is. Swimming pools. Movie stars. This is the grand and unusual tale of the Beverly Hillbillies. Miss Jane Hathaway felt a deep sense of accomplishment as she steered her car through the countryside. She turned toward her passengers with a warm smile. "We sure are obliged to you for driving us all the way to Hooterville, Miss Jane," Jed Clampett said, his voice rich with sincere gratitude. "Oh, it is my absolute pleasure, Mr. Clampett," Miss Jane replied, adjusting her glasses as she looked at the scenic route. Spending Christmas at Petticoat Junction was a truly delightful experience for everyone involved. She brought the vehicle to a smooth stop. "Come on in and have something to eat with us, Miss Jane," Jed invited warmly, gesturing toward the house. "Very well, I would love to," Miss Jane answered, stepping out into the fresh air. Before they could even cross the threshold, Granny stopped them with a look of sudden realization on her sharp face. Granny turned to Ellie Mae and whispered urgently, "I think you had better check the pantry first, Ellie. Remember that Jethro has been home all this time by himself." Jed nodded in agreement, knowing his nephew's legendary appetite. "Oh, besides that," Miss Jane said, checking her watch, "I had better hurry next door and check in with the chief immediately." Jed looked surprised to hear this. "Oh, is Mr. Drysdale staying here, Miss Jane? They can cure my bear if he is," Ellie Mae chimed in with great excitement. "Really?" Granny said, raising an eyebrow. "Well, Fairchild just loves Mr. Drysdale," Ellie Mae explained, her face lighting up at the thought of her beloved pet bear. "I bet you that they have been having a whole lot of fun together while we were gone." Jed scratched his chin, wondering about the household arrangements. "I wonder who has been doing all the cooking around here," he mused aloud. Granny snorted softly and said, "It was likely Mr. Drysdale." Jed chuckled at the image of the wealthy, sophisticated banker standing over a hot stove. "Well, if Mr. Drysdale has been doing the cooking for Jethro and Ellie Mae's bear, then he certainly has not had much time left for banking," Jed observed with a slow smile. Just then, the front door burst open and Jethro Bodine came running out, his face covered in crumbs and a look of pure joy in his eyes. "Boy, am I glad you are all back," Jethro shouted at the top of his lungs.
"Especially you, Granny.
I love you so much. Can I carry you right into the house?" Granny looked at her giant grandson with a mixture of affection and suspicion. "Oh, if it makes you happy, Jethro, you go ahead," Granny said. "Oh, it absolutely does make me happy," Jethro beamed, scooping her up into his massive arms. "I want to get you to the kitchen stove as quick as I possibly can." Granny immediately realized his true motive and began to kick her legs. "Ah, you put me right down this instant, Jethro. You are all hard muscle, boy," she complained, though she could not hide her smile. Jed laughed as he watched them. "He is all stomach, Granny," Jed joked. "Here, Jethro, get something to eat." "Yes, sir," Jethro said, putting Granny down and reaching for a piece of cornbread. Miss Jane looked at the young man with amusement. "Jethro, apparently you were not too happy with the chief's cooking," she noted. Jethro looked confused, his mouth half full. "Mr. Drysdale? He has not been here since Christmas Day," Jethro revealed. Jed froze in his tracks. "He is not?" "No, sir," Jethro shook his head. "He took the old truck and Ellie Mae's bear, and he drove off toward Hooterville to join up with you all. But he never got there." Jed looked worriedly at the others. "Wait a minute, Jed," Granny said, her memory suddenly sparked. "When we were on that train on Christmas night singing beautiful carols, I distinctly recollect Sam Drucker looking right out of the window and saying he had seen a bear driving a truck down the road." "Yeah," Jed remembered, nodding slowly. "And we just thought at the time that poor Sam had taken a little bit too much eggnog." Ellie Mae gasped, clapping her hands together. "No, Father, that was Fairchild." I learned him how to drive myself, so he could spell Mr. Drysdale at the wheel whenever he got tired. Granny stared at her granddaughter in absolute disbelief. A bear driving a truck? Ellie Mae defended her furry friend instantly. He is not bad at it at all, Granny. He hogs the road a lot, it is true, but the other drivers on the road never complained to him. Jed shook his head, trying to process the logic. I wonder why he did not stop in Hooterville then, Jed pondered. Granny shook her head, knowing the local geography well. That little town is very easy to miss in the daytime, Jed. But at night, with absolutely no lights to speak of on that old truck, it is nearly impossible. Jethro chimed in with another terrifying detail. There are no brakes to speak of on that truck neither, Uncle Jed. But she runs mighty good. I filled the whole gas tank to the top with Granny's special white lightning before they left. Granny's jaw dropped in horror. What did you say? Jethro smiled proudly, completely missing the danger. And I gave him plenty of extra jugs for the long trip back, too. Jed rubbed his forehead, knowing exactly how potent that brew was. That stuff is absolute liquid dynamite, Jethro, Jed said seriously. I will say it is, Granny agreed, her voice trembling slightly. Maybe he overshot Hooterville completely, Jed suggested. Miss Jane looked incredibly distressed. I certainly hope we hear some news from him very soon, she said. Jed sighed and looked out toward the road. If he runs into something with that truck full of moonshine, the whole countryside will hear from him. Meanwhile, miles away in a dusty, quiet county road, a very different scene was unfolding. Mist drifted over the grass as a local lawman stood with his hands on his hips, staring at an unbelievable sight. He tapped a sleeping figure on the shoulder. Hey, the lawman barked.
Hey. Huh.
A man blinked awake, rubbing his eyes in confusion. Oh, who are you? The man asked, shivering in the cold air. I am a sheriff, the lawman replied sternly, flashing his badge. Who exactly are you? Oh, I am the president of the Commerce Bank of Beverly Hills, Melbourne Drysdale said, trying to straighten his rumpled suit coat. The sheriff looked into the front seat of the truck and raised an eyebrow. Oh, well, who is your friend over there? Is he the mayor of Beverly Hills? Mr. Drysdale looked over at the massive, furry creature snoring loudly next to him. He is definitely not my friend, Mr. Drysdale said with a groan. He is just a rotten, no good hippie bear. The sheriff crossed his arms, utterly unimpressed. You ride around with wild bears a lot, do you? Oh, of course not, Mr. Drysdale pleaded, his hands shaking. Now look here, Sheriff, I can explain absolutely everything that has happened. I must admit, it does seem a bit peculiar to an outsider. No, it does not seem peculiar at all, the sheriff said dryly. Just let me see your driver's license, please. Mr. Drysdale patted his pockets frantically. Oh, my wallet is missing. The sheriff pointed a finger at the sleeping animal. Maybe your hippie friend rolled you for your cash while you were asleep. No, it probably just dropped out of my pocket somewhere along the way, Mr. Drysdale explained desperately. You see, we have been sleeping out on the cold ground a lot because these lousy motels around here refuse to give us a room. The sheriff nodded slowly, his voice dripping with sarcasm. No fool. That is mighty unfriendly of them, is it not? Mr. Drysdale felt a surge of self-pity. Everybody around here has been completely unfriendly to us, Sheriff. We drive up to a nice farmhouse just to use the telephone and ask for a little bit of food, and they instantly stick their fierce dogs on us. The sheriff smiled a cold, tight smile. Well, we are going to make up for all that terrible treatment right now. We want you to be an official guest of the county for a little while. Mr. Drysdale, misinterpreting the offer, sighed with relief. Well, now that is much more like it. Wait, do you mean I am under arrest? That is exactly right, the sheriff confirmed. What for? Mr. Drysdale cried out. What are the charges against me? The sheriff ticked them off on his fingers. For a starter, you are hauling a massive amount of illegal moonshine. Now look, Sheriff, you've got this all wrong, Mr. Drysdale argued, gesturing to the back of the truck. I just used this stuff to run the truck on. The sheriff glared at him. You mean you used the truck to run this stuff on? Mr. Drysdale panicked and put a hand over the sheriff's mouth. Show. Keep your voice down and put that jug of corn whiskey away immediately. If he wakes up right now and sees the jug, he will go straight for it." The sheriff stared at him. "You mean to tell me that you let that bear drink alcohol?" Mr. Drysdale sighed. "You try and stop him. He is sleeping one off right now, and when he wakes up with a terrible hangover, he is incredibly mean." The sheriff shook his head in disbelief. "You have got to be absolutely crazy to be riding around the country with a drunken bear." Mr. Drysdale shuddered, remembering the harrowing journey. "That is nothing, Sheriff. When he is the one doing the driving, then it gets really nervous." The sheriff drew his pistol and pointed toward the road. "Let us go. Follow me." "Where are we going?" Mr. Drysdale asked, stepping out of the vehicle. "We're going straight to the county courthouse," the sheriff ordered. "And if I look back even once and see that bear driving this truck, you are in big trouble, mister." Mr. Drysdale turned to glare at the sleeping animal. "You rotten bear," he muttered under his breath. "I ought to undress you and put you straight to bed. You ought to be the one in the drunk tank, not me." A short while later, Mr. Drysdale found himself sitting disconsolately behind iron bars in the small, stone jailhouse of Ripley. The sheriff walked in, holding a piece of paper. "Mr. Drysdale, I just made that phone call to your bank in Beverly Hills like you asked," the lawman announced. "Oh, good, good," Mr. Drysdale said, rushing to the bars. "Did you speak directly to Miss Hathaway?" "No," the sheriff replied, shaking his head.
She was not there at the office.
"Well, whoever you spoke to, I am absolutely sure they gave you the official word about my identity," Mr. Drysdale said confidently. "They sure did," the sheriff said with a chuckle. "They said they had never even heard of a man named Melbourne Drysdale." Mr. Drysdale's face turned bright red. "Are you absolutely sure you talked to the Commerce Bank?" "That is the one," the sheriff replied. "Well, who exactly did you talk to?" Mr. Drysdale demanded. "I will fire them the very second I get out of here." The sheriff scratched his head. "I could not catch the fellow's name. He was laughing far too hard to speak clearly." "Did you tell him his boss was locked up in a county jail?" "Yes, sir, I did," the sheriff said, smiling. And that is exactly when he started laughing even harder. Mr. Drysdale slammed his hand against the iron bars. "You let me out of here this instant. I know my legal rights. I want to run." A loud, deep grunt came from the corner of the cell. Mr. Drysdale immediately jumped back in terror. "Oh, excuse me, Fairchild," he whispered quickly to the giant bear sleeping on the cot. "I will be completely quiet. Please go right back to sleep. It is a good bear, a very good bear." Back in the grand, bustling lobby of the Commerce Bank of Beverly Hills, the atmosphere was shockingly festive. Colorful decorations were scattered about, and music was playing. Miss Jane Hathaway walked in and stared in utter astonishment at the scene. "What on earth is this, Mr. Cratchit?" she asked loudly. "We are celebrating New Year's Eve, Miss Jane," the bank executive replied with a wide grin. Miss Jane frowned deeply. "That holiday is long past. We are celebrating something much better than that," Mr. Cratchit explained joyfully. "Yeah, we finally got him. Public enemy number one is officially in jail. The skinflint, Drysdale. Yeah, the absolute beast of Beverly Hills has been locked away." Miss Jane gasped, her loyalty to her boss rushing to the forefront. "Where is Mr. Drysdale right now?" "Well, Miss Hathaway, I don't know if I should say," Mr. Cratchit said, suddenly looking cautious. "Promise me you will keep it a total secret." "Of course not," Miss Jane snapped. "He must be released from custody immediately." "Oh, he will never be released," Mr. Cratchit said cheerfully, waving his hands. "They have got him dead to rights for vagrancy, bootlegging, and contributing to the total delinquency of a bear." Miss Jane glared at him with immense authority. "Mr. Cratchit, do you actually want the doors of this grand bank to close forever?" "Oh, yes, that is a truly great idea," Mr. Cratchit smiled widely. "We will make it an official legal holiday. We can call it Liberation Day. We will hang out beautiful flags and colorful bunting, and we will let all of the bank employees go off on a wonderful afternoon picnic." Miss Jane crossed her arms tightly. "The only place we are going is to the specific town where Mr. Drysdale is being held, and we're going to take him out of that jail ourselves." Mr. Cratchit looked alarmed. No, no, no. I will have absolutely no part of a lynch mob, Miss Hathaway. Miss Jane rolled her eyes. I mean that we are going to bail him out legally, you foolish man. One of the young secretaries, Miss King, sighed in disappointment. Do we really have to do that, Miss Hathaway? Miss Jane turned a sharp gaze toward her. You may return to the secretarial pool immediately, Miss King. Yes, ma'am, the young woman said, turning away. Mr. Cratchit watched her leave and whispered to another clerk, Nice try, Bobby. Thank you, Kathy dear. Thank you, the clerk whispered back. Miss Jane stepped closer to Mr. Cratchit, demanding answers. Now then, Mr. Cratchit, where exactly is Mr. Drysdale? Oh, he is in a tiny little town called Ripley, Mr. Cratchit finally confessed. Where is that? Miss Jane asked, thinking hard. I have never heard of Ripley in my entire life. Oh, but you will, Miss Hathaway, Mr. Cratchit smiled. We are going to make it a national shrine. The historic town where they finally captured the notorious Melbourne Drysdale. Miss Jane tapped her foot angrily. Mr. Cratchit, tell me where Ripley is. I will never tell, Miss Hathaway, he declared dramatically. Never, never, never. A few hours later, Miss Jane had managed to track down the location and traveled to find the Clampett family to seek their help. They gathered in the living room, trying to figure out a plan. Mr. Cratchit, you look for him back here, Miss Jane said, finishing a thought as she turned to Jed. Miss Jane says Fairchild is locked up in jail. Ellie Mae cried out, tears welling in her eyes. You mean he is there right now? Jed asked, his face full of concern. Yes, sir, Ellie Mae sobbed. We have got to get him out of there right away. Whereabouts is he, Miss Jane? Jed asked calmly, trying to keep the peace. In a little town called Ripley, Miss Jane explained. But what is even more disturbing